What's going on, guys? My name is Josh, and I'm back today with episode 3 recap of the Real World Homecoming New Orleans. So yes, guys, a lot of stuff went down in this episode. We kind of get to see the fallout from Julie's drinking antics. I feel bad for Tokyo this episode, but I'm glad he spoke up. And we also get a visit from, Paul visiting Danny. So yes, lots of stuff to go over. Before I get started, though, if you've been enjoying my Real World Homecoming, episode recaps, if you could do me a huge favor, guys, and please like this video. Whenever you like a video, it really does help with the algorithm and really just helps the video do better. And also, if you've been enjoying these episode recaps, I would really appreciate, if you haven't already, can you please subscribe to my channel? I'm actually halfway to 1,000 subscribers. I'm definitely hoping to get there one day. And if you've been enjoying these videos, I definitely would appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. Now you better watch out because it's time to get this video started. Let's go. So yes, guys, I just finished episode 3 of the Real World Homecoming New Orleans, and this episode definitely was a lot. I definitely felt bad for Tokyo, but I'm glad he spoke up, and I'm glad Melissa had his back. But so just to kind of give my initial thoughts in this episode, so pretty much what happened was, the main point is Julie, after, she had her drinking night where she just became a hot mess. She definitely needed help. She was falling all over the place. She fell out of the cab. Tokyo had to hold her hair back, and she just definitely was a hot mess, and she needed to go home. Later, then we see her wake up, and then she's looking at bruises on her back, and she pretty much blames, Tokyo from pretty much manhandling her, that he gave her the bruises, which is absolutely wrong. Tokyo, if anyone, he really was trying to look out for Julie. He was being a good friend. She needed to leave. First of all, her being at the club, she definitely was going to get kicked out, whether, it was by them trying to get her to leave, the roommates, or if security made her leave, she was going to get kicked out because she was a mess. And he was really just looking out for his friend, and him grabbing her to take her out was all from a good place, and he didn't leave any bruises. He just really picked her up. That's all he did. If anything, she got the bruises from falling out of the cab. When you saw in the episode when, they're going home, they open the door, Julie falls out of the cab, and she falls a good couple feet, and then she falls on the curb. That one looked painful. That did not look like a small fall. She fell on her face. And then we see her rocking into trees, getting scratched up by trees. So definitely, those bruises were not caused by Tokyo. It was because Julie was being a hot mess. And I just very, very wrong of her to try to accuse Tokyo of anything else when he was being a good friend. He's pretty much was the more sober one in the situation. He knows what's going on. She was belligerent. He was taking care of her. He was holding her hair back. And she just kind of accuses him of leaving bruises and kind of manhandling her, which is just very, very wrong because he was being a good friend. And the truth is, that is one good thing, though, about the show is, and I'm glad Tokyo, brought this, this was the kind of topic of this episode, because as the audience, we got to see everything, and we definitely can clearly see that Julie was in the wrong. I really appreciate Melissa in this episode because, when Julie started to bring up that, Tokyo left bruises on her, I love that, Melissa talked about this and pretty much said, that's not right. Tokyo was taking care of her, but we're not going to do this. We're not going to accuse a black man of, being an aggressor and leaving bruises on this white woman. And she was pretty much changing what actually happened. Tokyo was, taking care of Julie. He was trying to, make sure she was okay. He was really the main one taking care of her. And, you're not going to change this and make it seem like it was something it wasn't, where, he was aggressive with you and, tried to manhandle you, because that's not right to do. So I'm definitely glad, Melissa spoke up about this. And, one thing I got to say too about this is, if you think about this, just the house in general, no one's messing with Julie. So Julie, I feel like, Danny and Melissa while they are civil with, Julie, they're not really friends with her. And you can tell that they don't really want a relationship with her. I don't see them being friends after the show. And then for the most part, it seems like, no one in the house is really, wanting to get to know Julie. The only person that was really generally trying to get to know Julie was Tokyo. And, Tokyo was there for her when she was having problems with the roommates. He was listening to her. He was giving her advice, and then when he did see her kind of getting drunk, out of control, he was making sure she was okay. He made sure she got home okay when she was sick. He was holding her hair back. He was being such a good friend to Julie. And just for, Julie to kind of turn on him and then accuse him of leaving her bruises, it's just wrong. And I just feel like Tokyo was I just feel bad for Tokyo because Tokyo generally, came into this experience wanting to be more open and, give everyone a fair shot. And he really tried to give Julie a fair shot, and this is how she repays him. I just thought that was pretty messed up. We then see, so then later, pretty much we then see in the episode, Tokyo and Julie kind of have a sit down, and, Tokyo is trying to explain, like, from his perspective, what he saw that, Julie, was drinking too much. She was belligerent. Julie just kind of on the defensive and saying how, like, listen, if I'm that drunk, you just need to leave me. I don't care, how I'm acting. You just need to leave me. Let me learn that lesson. And she's just really, really being defensive in this. And I think she's not even listening to him, to his point where he's saying, like, listen, but you're labeling me. You're saying that I'm an aggressor and I was being aggressive and I left, bruises on you. That's wrong. That's not what happened. And the fact that she is not listening to him and then she starts to get defensive and she kind of gets angry and kind of storms off. I think that is one of her big problems is, like, you just got to listen. Like, if someone's talking to you, you just need to listen and listen to their side. So it's very hard, I feel like, for these roommates to have conversations with her that actually, got through, is because she doesn't listen to them. She's so quick to be in the defensive. Then we see in this episode that, Julie's in the hot tub talking on her cell phone, I think to her husband, and she's talking pretty much shit about all the roommates, saying how, they're boring, they didn't make good TV. She went out and made sure to get really, really drunk and shit-faced, so that way, they could have, good content. It can be a good episode, and the rest of the roommates are boring, and they go to bed early. And meanwhile, we see Kelly and Melissa both kind of overhear her talking all this crap about them. And it's just kind of hard, I think, with a lot of this, especially the original Real World New Orleans. I feel like that show was really good because everyone was being their true selves, and it just happened to be recorded. Where now I feel like Julie is coming back into this experience. She's putting on a show. She's trying to act. She's trying to make scenes. And that doesn't always come off as genuine. Whereas I feel like when you capture people being generally themselves, that makes for good reality TV. But when you're putting on a show, it's just kind of hard to tell what's real with Julie and what's not. If all of this, all of her antics, is it just because, she's trying to make good reality TV? But it's definitely, yes, Melissa and Kelly definitely heard, Julie talking shit about them. So it's just, kind of hard to know what's real with Julie and what's not, because she's putting on a show. Now, we did see a conversation between Melissa and Tokyo, and pretty much Melissa, she speaks up and she's telling Tokyo, like, listen, I didn't like that, Julie tried to say you were the aggressor, and, you have, this white woman saying a black man was an aggressor, and that's not what happened. And she's like, I don't really know what to do though, because I can either, choose to, stay out of the conversation and not feed into whatever she's trying to change. She's trying to change the storyline, trying to change the narrative, what happened. I can either sit back and not engage with her, or I can kind of jump in and engage with, and try to, say why it's wrong. But then I'm feeding into her, her bullshit pretty much. So they have a conversation about how, she understands what Tokyo's going through, and it's not right. Tokyo then decides we see him have a house meeting, which pretty much we have a house meeting, and I'm glad Tokyo had this because he's really, I feel like the old Tokyo was just very disengaged from the show. He really, I feel like this time he's very, very present, and where maybe something bothered him the first time, he wouldn't really speak on it. Now he's being open and he's speaking about his feelings. In the episode, we see him, he moves out of Julie's room. He doesn't want to be in rooms with her. And pretty much he has a house meeting and he explains to the roommates why he doesn't want to live in the room with her. And he kind of, tells Julie, you were being belligerent. It's really wrong of you, to say that I left bruises on you. I was being the one trying to help you. Julie's immediately on the defensive. So Julie's just very, very defensive. She's not really listening to Tokyo, but Tokyo is pretty much explaining, like, he, is explaining why, he doesn't want to be in the room with her, because he's uncomfortable, because, he was being there for her as a friend. He was taking care of her, and then she accuses him of leaving bruises on her. And I love that, we see Melissa kind of jump in, and Melissa comes to his defense, and Melissa's pretty much, she says the same thing. It's not right of you, he was taking care of you all night, and now you're going to say he was being aggressive and he left bruises on you. It's wrong to change that narrative, from a white woman to accuse a black man of being aggressive when, he was really just being a good friend and taking care of her. And she even makes the point, which I love Melissa, because she makes the point, like, and then Julie's pretty much like, yeah, but he grabbed me and I had bruises on me. And then Melissa makes the point, yeah, and you also fell out of the cab. You also fell into trees. You don't think the bruises could have came from there? I think the moral of the story is, if you don't, especially if you're drunk and you don't know what's going on, don't start accusing people of, stuff they didn't do, especially when you're the drunk one and you're being the hot mess, and you know what I mean? You don't know the truth because you were so drunk. I just think for most people, if you you became a hot mess the night before, you got a little too drunk, you were kind of an asshole, just call it what it is. I feel like the next day, if you wake up, you're going to wake up apologetic, especially if people told you, like, hey, you were being kind of a hot mess, I had to take care of you. Most people are going to apologize to the person and be thankful, like, oh, thank you for looking out for me. Thank you for taking care of me. You're not going to accuse the person of, leaving bruises on you when you caused the bruises on yourself because you were drunk, and one, you don't have a memory of what happened, so you don't really know where the bruises came from. It's just wrong to accuse someone who does know what happened of anything else and try to damage someone's character. Just because I don't really know what her issue is. I really think she was just making a big deal out of it to try to make good reality TV, but it definitely has consequences. And I'm just very happy that the roommates, all called her out on this. And yeah, she didn't. I feel like this could have easily been, maybe if they didn't address this, if Tokyo didn't address this, or if Melissa didn't address this, this could have easily maybe not been talked about. But I'm glad they did talk about this, because this made the focus of the episode. And as the audience, we got to see the truth. We got to see, the truth that, Julie was a hot mess. Tokyo was taking care of her. And then we kind of get to see the aftermath. Julie trying to accuse Tokyo of otherwise, but we know better. So that was kind of the big thing that happened this episode, is kind of all the drama from Julie's, her drinking, and then just kind of that aftermath. Now, another thing that happened this episode that I just want to go over is we also get to see, Paul pretty much comes to visit Danny. So Danny talked about his relationship with Paul last episode, and how, they were such a, back in the day, how it was a big deal. They were a couple. A lot of gay people looked up to them. So they kind of stayed in the relationship longer than it should have been. They broke up badly and there was no closure. So he finally actually invites Paul to the house so that they can kind of have a conversation about the breakup and get closure. So we then see, Paul come to the house. It's been, 22 years. This is, I guess, the first time that they're seeing each other. And Danny was saying that their relationship ended bad. Pretty much, Paul cheated on Danny with one of their mutual best friends. And it was just a very, very bad breakup. And they definitely felt bad for Danny, especially because they, him and Paul were such a couple, and to be asked about, Paul all the time, and then the ending of that. So thinking you have like this great love story, from the outside world thinks, and then have it end so badly with, this person cheating on you with one of your good friends. It's just hurtful. So I definitely understand why Danny did not want to talk to Paul. Pretty much they talk, though. Danny's able to, express, that their relationship was toxic. He stayed in the relationship longer because he felt that, they became kind of like a gay icon. Their relationship gave hope to a lot of people, so he stayed in that relationship a lot longer than maybe he should have, and how just it was toxic, and he, was really hurt by, that, Paul cheated with their good friend. And we kind of see Paul and Danny, kind of have a conversation, and, pretty much they give each other a hug at the end, and kind of Danny gets his closure. So we kind of get to see the Paul story come full circle. And yeah, it's sad that it ended the way it did, because I know a lot of people did really like that relationship, but it happens, I guess. But yeah, so that was pretty much episode 3 of Real World Homecoming New Orleans. So what did you guys think? This episode was definitely a lot. Next episode seems like it's going to be it's going to continue next episode. It definitely seems like there's going to be a lot more, with Julie again next episode. But what did you think of this episode? Please leave your comments below, and thank you as always so much for watching.